Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Friday Blackbird Workshop. Let's see here. Well, looking at the names in the room, there is a new name here I don't recognize. So before we kind of dive into the questions that we have lined up here, let me first ask. All right, so for the name here I don't recognize, actually, let me get this switched over. There we go. Yeah. So for the name here, I don't recognize in the room. Um, my question is, would you like to hear the workshop introduction? Right. The workshop introduction is, I'll explain what we do in these workshops, right? What we do and what we do not do in these workshops, probably more important, what we do not do. And then I'll explain how the recordings work. So if you do ask a question and you want to watch the recording here, right? Because on the training workshops page, if you scroll down to the bottom, right, there's a recording section, and then eventually the recordings get added to the list here. All right. So yeah, I'll explain how that works. And then lastly, I'll explain what custom indicators I can install into my machine in case you have a question about using some kind of custom indicator out there. All right. So if anybody would like to hear the workshop introduction, let me know and I'll get that out of the way first. So while I'm waiting here to see if anybody would like to hear the introduction, there are two questions here that we have, that I have to get today's workshop started. So both questions were emailed into support there. So the first question is from yesterday. Let's see, is it that one? Nope, this one. There we go. So we'll finish answering this question here by taking this 3 consecutive closes signal here, and we'll plug it into Blackbird with those profit targets there and stop losses. And then I also received another question, which is another continuation of yesterday's Bloodhound workshop there. And so we have some stop loss order management here. So let's see. All right, well, I don't see any takers for the workshop introduction. So let's go ahead and dive into our first emailed in question here. Let's see. Yeah, so really, the first part of this is really just building the Bloodhound signals there, and the rest of it there is just plugging the Bloodhound signals into Blackbird there, and setting up the profit targets and the stop loss there. All right, so there's nothing specific here. Blackbird, basically does all of does these instructions automatically there. So it's just built into Blackbird, right? Let's see here. Let me shrink this down a little bit. There we go. All right, so let's get Blackbird open so we can see I already have Blackbird loaded up. So we just click on the order settings button there, and that opens up the interface. There we go. All right, so first thing is we'll load in the Bloodhound system that was built yesterday in yesterday's workshop. So we'll just go to the signals here and then go down to Bloodhound signals and then open up the menu there, and we'll click on the ellipses button like so, and that will open up the open dialog window. All right, so there we go. There's yesterday's uh, Bloodhound file there from the workshop. So we'll just open that up. There we go, loads it in. Now we need to select on the, let's see, there we go, 3 closes on the same side of the SMA. So that is the system here from yesterday. And let's see, there was no exit signal. Right. Well, actually, yeah, there was an exit signal. Yeah, just caught myself there. So there was an exit signal, and I guess, we'll go ahead and set that up too, just in case. There. All right. So there's the exit signal. So now, if you don't want to use it, all you gotta do is just uncheck the exit signals, and there you go. And now, now the exit signals are disabled here. So, but all right, I'll leave that enabled. So, like so. And then let's scroll down to the order settings here for Blackbird. All right, so we can see we have 3 order sets because we have 3 profit targets, right? 3 profit targets at different levels means you have to have 3 order sets there. So it doesn't say what type of entry order, so then I'm just going to go with a market entry there. So that gets your order set started, is by specifying the entry order, right? And then next we'll plug in our profit target or take profit there, and we're using a tick based one here, so we can see, right, 160 ticks. So let's go down here, go down to tick profit. We'll use the tick profit target quick list there, and I'll just grab the 20, and then we'll open that up and go into the initial placement and then set it to 160 like so. All right, and click OK. So there's our 160 tick target, and the stop losses are all fixed 240 tick there. All right, so let's go to the stop losses, and again we could do a tick based one there, although honestly if it's a fixed tick based stop loss, you're not really saving much time by using this quick list here, unless it is exactly 20 ticks that you want to use, or if it is, let's see, that's the only fixed one. Yeah, all the rest basically have some kind of trailing. So instead, I'm just going to go, I'll just click on custom, open up the stop loss, and then go to the initial placement and just plug in 240. So there we go, 240, and we're done there. All right, so there's our first order set for the 160 tick target. So now let's set up the second one, the 240 target. All right, so to do that, I'm going to go to the, all right, set up a new order set, and this time I'm going to copy. So I'm going to copy order set A here. So let's copy A. There we go. So our entry order set up, our stop loss is set up, and then I just need to open up the profit target and change that profit target to 240, and there we go. Click OK, and we're done. Yeah, so let's see here, just a moment guys, I'm gonna turn something off here on my host machine. There we go. All right, yeah, I had something making a bunch of noises. And there we go. All right, I'm back. Okay, so for our last profit target there, we'll just rinse and repeat. Do the same thing here. So let me just copy from B and then go into the profit target. Open up the initial placement here, right, and change that 240 to 320. And there we have it. All done. So really nothing more to it than that. So now we can just click OK. Actually, let me just scroll that out a little bit. There we go. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I'm not going to save this. This is way too easy to set up. And okay, good. I thought for a moment I might have canceled it. So now, and next step, now that because we have a Bloodhound system loaded in right here, we can see Blackbird's telling us, hey, you know, NinjaTrader cannot load indicators on the fly, right? You do have to either open up the indicator window, right, which does a reload here. So we do need to manually do a reload for NinjaTrader to be able to load in the Bloodhound there and the Bloodhound signals. There we go. All right, so maybe we get a close and there's our signal, and I forgot to turn on the auto trading. There we go. Get that turned on. Maybe we'll get another up bar here. Nope. Let's see, what am I on? A 30 range? Well, yeah, markets are moving pretty quick. There we go. Maybe we'll get another down bar, hopefully. And let's see here. Oh, and so we got a little message there, and yep, I put my stop loss in backwards or incorrectly there. So yeah, so let's go and fix this. Actually, let's cancel. Let me just delete that one and delete that one, and then we'll go into the first stop loss, open up the initial placement here, and of course for a long trade, stop losses are negative, right, because you're subtracting, going 240 ticks down, right, subtracting 240 ticks from the entry price for a long trade. There it goes. So just, yeah, remember, you do need to put the negative symbol in for long trades, since the stop loss is obviously below your entry price there. All right, now we got that set correctly. Now I can just go here and I can copy from A and then go to this stop loss and copy from A, and now we're good to go. All right, well, with any luck, we'll get another entry here soon. Yeah, maybe we'll get a long trade set up here. Well, wouldn't you know it, looks like the market's stuck in a range. All right, maybe one more bar. Nope. Let's see here. Well, while we're waiting on that, I guess just for good measure here, let me throw the SMA indicator on. There we go. All right. All right, there's our SMA. And there we go. Looks like we'll get a short signal here. And there we have it. Bingo. Excellent. So, and remember, we do have that exit signal enabled here. So if I go to the Bloodhound up here and I click on the exit close, right? There was that long signal which exited the short trade there, right? So that's why things got closed out. There. All right. Well, now one last adjustment here. So, yeah, so this was Ian's question. And so, yeah, Ian's reminded me that, yeah, he had an adjustment here where he would like the entry order to follow the SMA, right? Or whatever moving average you might want to use for this here. So let's go in and make that adjustment here. So I'm going to delete that one and delete order set B, and then go into the entry order, and we're going to set this to a limit there. Set it to a limit. All right. And so the placement, or sorry, the initial placement, not place, but the initial placement here, we're going to open this up because we're going to place that limit entry order on the SMA. So we need to go to the mode. Right now it's set to price, so we can, pick a bar price here to set that limit order, but we're going to use an indicator. So we're going to change the mode to indicator value. There we go. All right, so there, the SMA is always the default indicator, so let's open that up there. And so all we need to do is just adjust the period to 3. And there we have it. So now, if you want, right, you can put, let's see here. So for a long trade, we could put it 1 tick below the SMA or put it 1 tick right in front of the SMA. So you can add a little tick offset there if you want. So, all right, so that's our initial placement. Now, what happens if there's no pullback? Well, then we want the entry order to follow that SMA. So that means we have to go to the trailing actions here and set up a trailing rule. So to do that, we're going to change the mode to custom. There we go. And then add a trailing rule right here. And if you want, you can name this something like that. So, but really all we needed to do is go straight to the action. There, go to the move to, right, move to right there. And we're going to do the same thing again here. We're going to change the mode to indicator value. There's our SMA, open that up, and knock the period down to 3, like so. And there we have it. And then lastly, right, we want this trailing roll here to repeat there, just in case, right? Yeah, just in case there's no pullback there. So set the repeat to indefinitely. There we go. All right, and that was it. So let's see here, click OK. And let's see, yeah, we might, because I'm on a range chart here, yeah, we might get an opportunity where this tight moving average, the order may not be picked up on the first bar, but it might get picked up on the second bar here. So let's see. Let's see if we get another short signal here by chance. All right, maybe. There we go. All right, there we are. And yep, it did get picked up. Bingo. Oh, and yeah, if you notice, I didn't create the other order sets there. So, but at least we know that that entry order is working. So now it's just a matter of doing what we did before. Just copy from A, right, and then going into the profit target, and click over to the options tab this time and go into the initial placement, right? And we want to change that 160 to 240, like so. There we go. Click OK. There we go. So now this second order set is also placing a entry order on the SMA, and it's trailing it, right? And then let's make our third order set here. We'll copy B, and then once again just go into the target there, open up the initial placement and adjusted that to 320. Click OK, and there we go. All right, all done. And let's see here, it looks like the market is consolidating a little bit. There we go. Looks like we might get a short here. Great. There we go. There's all three entry orders right there on that SMA. And bingo, there we go. Trailed down. Oh, it's so nice when the market works with you. And there, wow. The market actually gapped up, and NinjaTrader did not realize that, actually no, sorry, the order was up there. So yeah, so the market didn't quite get to the entry order there, and Blackbird had enough time to cancel those orders, even though it was like literally like a tick away, maybe 2 ticks away. Yeah, so don't always count on that happening, guys. Remember, the markets move so much faster, than your software can calculate there. So, because remember, the order doesn't get canceled on your computer, the order gets canceled at your broker. So, and then your broker has to submit that cancellation to the exchange. So there is some lead time there from right, Blackbird figuring from Blackbird, receiving the exit order and then transmitting that to NinjaTrader, and then NinjaTrader transmits that cancel to your broker, and then your broker transmits that cancel to the exchange. Yeah. So I think really the only reason why those entry orders were canceled in time is because we're using a sim account. So there is a good chance that if it was live, that those orders would have been filled before the whole chain of events, could filter all the way to your broker and to the exchange. So, but in any case, that was a good demonstration. We got to watch the entry orders trailing there, and then that exit signal canceled it right there. Let's see. Mark that, and if I change the logic template, right, there we go. That was our long exit signal there to exit those short orders. All right. Well, I think that takes care of it. All right. So setting up the profit targets, stop losses, straightforward. The only thing that took any amount of work there was just setting up that trailing entry order there, right? So the initial placement was set to the SMA, and remember you got to change your mode to indicator value there. And then on the trailing actions, right, we had to set the mode to custom and then add a trailing roll, and then the action is what moves the entry order to the SMA, and then set the repeat to indefinitely. So, all right. And once that was done, then it was just a matter of copying A, right? To make B, we just copied A, right? So remember, you can just use the copy feature here, and you can copy A to create B, and then change your profit target. And then for C, do the same thing. For C, you could copy B or copy A and just change your profit target. So, all right, well, let's see. Let me see if there's any follow-ups on this. Let's see. All right, yeah, so there's Ian's comment there. All right, so we got that taken care of. And all right, well, I don't see any follow-ups on this question here. All right, so I think we're done here. And let's see here. So we just read Farrell's questions. Actually, yeah, I guess these are not follow-ups. These look like separate questions here. All right, so let's see here. So Farrell has 3 questions. All right, the first question here is pretty straightforward. I can answer that quickly here, but but the other 2 questions are gonna have to wait until I answer this emailed in question here. All right, so this is gonna be our next question coming up here, but let's see here. So for Farrell's first question, he's asking how many Blackbird strategy instances can he run at the same time before performance or execution issues occur. Well, Farrell, you're going to have to tell me how fast is your computer, right? All computers are different. All CPUs run at different speeds. How many things do you have running in the background of Windows, right? Things of that. So those are things that I have no knowledge of. So the answer is you just have to do your own testing and figure that out because every computer, every machine is different. So there is no answer to that question other than testing it yourself. So, yeah. And more importantly, obviously, I think you kind of realize this, but just in case, really the days you want to test it on are on those really high volume, crazy days where the market is just skyrocket, moving by, market's gapping around by a couple of ticks all over the place. So, so you just have to figure that out. So one thing that can help is if you could use NinjaTrader's playback connection And I believe it does a decent job at trying to simulate real market, but I don't know exactly the how the back end of the coding works for the playback connection. So it actually may not be a perfect. Actually, I think I'm sure NinjaTrader would say that no, this is not a perfect facsimile of a live market and a live situation there, but it's as close as you're gonna get there. So with the playback, try and find one of those extreme high volatility days with a ton of volume, and just run as many blackbirds as you plan on running um, on that playback data there at 1x, and yeah, see how your machine goes. So let's see here. All right. So anyways, so I could take care of number one pretty quickly there. So I'm gonna leave number two and number three for later. So all right. So this is gonna be our next question here from Doug coming up here. So this also is a follow-up to yesterday's workshop signal here that was built. So there you go, yesterday. All right. So give me a moment here to get these Dacian channels loaded up here, because let's see here. We're using the midline of the Dacian channel. All right. Now I think I'm ready to set this up here. Um, all right, let's kind of go over this a little bit more here. Um, all right, so we have um, three contracts here. And let's see, so the initial stop loss is going to be the Dacian channel, right, with the 11 period, all right, and the stop losses will trail, right, and let's see where. I'm missing it. Oh, there we go, right where my cursor's at. All right, so we do have a target here, right? So the first order set has a 100 tick target, right? The other order sets are just runners. And there we go. Move that up a tad bit. All right, so there we go. Second order set, no target, that's just a runner. And the third target is also just a runner. But this stop loss there is going to be, right, instead of it, so the second stop loss will be the midline, and the third stop loss will actually wait for price. Well, actually, these aren't technically stop losses here, right? We're actually waiting for price to close below the midline there, right? And then for the third order set here, wait for price to close below the lower Donchian channel there, right? One bar back. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. So these aren't actually, well, yeah. So these aren't actually stop orders if you're waiting for price to cross some kind of indicator line there, right? So you have to make a decision here. So you can't have a physical order in the market, right? So what we could do is we could put a stop loss in that's way out there, way out there. So we could take, this Donchian channel, right, 6 period, right? We could take this and we could take the midline and then maybe add 2 ATRs or 1 ATR as, so that there is a physical order out there, and then check to see, actually, you know what? Yeah, this is going to be tricky. All right, so we're dealing with an issue here, two issues. All right, well, I'll get into this here once we get around to setting up these stop losses here. So it's better to kind of see something than to talk about it in theory. So let's go through and let's set up our Bloodhound entry signals there, and then we'll set up our first stop loss and first profit target there. All right, so let's do that part first. All right, so and let's get rid of, well, actually, we are using these signals here, right? So, and as this mentions, it was demonstration number 2 there, and I'm pretty sure that is what was left connected here. And, oh, yeah, that's right. I meant to install this morning. So there is an update here that addresses a little kind of inconvenience there with the market orders there. But we'll get back to that after we answer this question here. Let's see here. Yeah, so number 2 is actually connected in, so that's the signals we're seeing there. All right, so let's open up Blackbird there, and we'll load in yesterday's Bloodhound file. So click on the menu, and again, click on the little 3 dots button there. It's called the ellipses button. There it is. There's yesterday's workshop file. Double click on that, load it in, and since we didn't hit reload here, so that's why Bloodhound is still loaded on the chart there. It's because we didn't reload the chart to allow, which allows NinjaTrader to remove the Bloodhound indicator. So that's why it's still on there from the previous question. So, all right, so there is the system there for this second question. And there we go. There we have it. That's all we needed to do. There, that loads in the Bloodhound file and signals. All right. Next, let's see here. Yeah, there's no mention of the entry order. So we'll just go with the market entry. And the profit target, and I always keep losing it. There it is, 100 tick profit target. So let's go here to the profit targets, and I'll just go to custom, open this up, go to the options tab. There we go. So the initial placement, right? So we want a 100 ticks offset from the entry order. So there we go. There's our 100 tick target. Call it good. And then the stop loss. Sorry guys, my throat is starting to dry out already, so I might mute myself once in a while. And there we go. All right, so there's our stop loss, right on the opposite band or channel of the Donchian there. All right, so let's open up our stop loss and go to custom, and then open up our stop loss. Go into the initial placement there. All right, and so we're not using price to set our stop loss. We're using an indicator value. So we're going to change the mode to indicator value. There we go. So let's open up the indicator here and do a little search for the Donchian. There we go. There's the Donchian channel. And adjust the period. All right, so if in a long trade, right, we're going to use the lower channel. And if in a short trade, right, using not the mean, but the upper channel. There we go. There. So, all right. So there we have it. And yeah, and we're going to trail the stop loss. We're going to trail that stop loss. So let's go to the trailing actions and set the mode to custom. There we go. And then add a trailing roll. And then, so there's no prerequisite for starting the trailing, right? So think of the trigger as a prerequisite, right? Something needs to happen first before we start moving that stop loss. But in this case, just follow the indicator. So we're just going to go straight to the action there and then go to move to, right? And then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to set the mode to indicator value like we did last time, right? Open up the SMA there and do a little search for the Donchian. And there it is, Donchian channel. Adjust our period. And then for a long trade, use the lower channel. For a short trade, use the upper channel. Okay. And there we have it. And next, we want this to repeat indefinitely. There we go. Now, because we're using an indicator, right, to move the stop loss, we only need it to update once per bar, right? Your Donchian channel is only going to update once per bar. So we're just going to leave it on once per bar. There. All right, so that sets up that stop loss. There. Let's see here. Well, actually, we do have some trailing rolls here. All right. So, actually, yeah. So we're going to go in and adjust the trailing here. So we're going to use the ATR trailing stop. All right. All right, but we do have a prerequisite, a requirement here. Let's see, yeah, so we just need price to close above the Donchian channel of 1 bar ago. All right, so let's go back into our stop loss. There. So we do have a requirement here. So we're going to open up the triggers. Right, so this stop loss does not trail until this triggering condition occurs here. Right, so let's open up the triggers, and we're gonna do price versus indicator. Right, so we're literally comparing the closing price, right, to the Donchian channel indicator there. Okay, so input A, by default, it's already set to the close price, so we're good there. So input B, that will be the Donchian channel. So let's open that up and plug in the Donchian here. There we go. All right, select the Donchian and adjust the period. So for a long trade, we're checking to see if the closing price, right, we're comparing the closing price to the upper channel here for a long trade. And it'll be the lower channel for a short trade, right? Okay, and we want it 1 bar ago, right? So we're gonna open up input B here. So that effectively is what NinjaTrader's displacement does, right? So we're going to set the displacement to 1. So that's how we get 1 bar ago. There. All right. So that is our requirement there. And then in the action, so actually we're going to pull out the Donchian channel and we're going to use the ATR trailing stop. So let's open up this and then open up the indicator there. All right, do a little search for ATR trail. There we go. There's our trailing stop there. And if I recall, I think we used, actually no, that was for a different question here. okay, sorry. That's right. So yeah, these were for the ATR trailing. And all right, so let's select the ATR trailing, and I think it was like 3 and 1.3 were the settings. So again, just make sure whatever settings you want for the ATR trailing, plug them in there correctly, and and we can just leave it on the stop dot there. All right. Yeah, there we go. And as always, you could put your stop loss one tick below the trailing indicator there, right? 2 ticks below, whatever you want, or 1 tick above, so you can add that tick offset if you like there. And all right, so there we have it. So we do have the repeat still set to indefinitely. So that means, right, that the stop loss will trail the ATR trailing stop there, and until either the target is hit or the stop loss is hit, obviously. There. Okay. All right, so that takes care of order set 1. So let's click OK. There we go. So now I'm kind of wondering if these second stop losses here are actually following this same rules here for the stop loss for order set 1 here, but I'm guessing not. So all right, I'm just going to set them up literally as I see them here. So let's see here. All right. So as mentioned at the beginning of explaining the question here, so this isn't actually, this is a condition. This is not a stop loss order, right? We're waiting for price to close below the midline, right? That's not an order, that's a condition there. So, so we have to, and we can build this condition into Blackbird, but we have to decide, do we want to use a profit target to build this condition, or do we want to use a stop loss, but we'd have to offset that stop loss below the Donchian channel. Obviously, we could put the stop loss on the lower channel, right? Hopefully that should be good enough to keep that stop loss out of the way, so that way a wick doesn't hit that stop loss before the bar actually closes on the other side of the midline, right? Lots of things you kind of have to personal decision there. So I'm going to go with a profit target here. So yeah, I'm going to go with a profit target. So let's use a market order and then go with a profit target. And this profit target, well, actually, no, this is supposed to be a runner. Yeah. Yeah, I guess going with the profit target kind of violates, the purpose. Yeah, defeats the purpose. A runner, defeats the purpose of using a profit target. So, all right, I'll change my mind. So let's go with a stop loss there. I'm going to go custom. All right. And let's see here. So for the initial location of the stop loss, I'm going to use the Donchian indicator. So it switched the mode over to indicator. And there's our Donchians already in here from previous there. So I could go with the Donchian number 1 there, which uses the 11 period, or you could go with the number 2, right, which uses the 6 period. And I guess just for consistency only, I'll use the Donchian number 2, which is the 6 period. All right. And so we can see it already has the lower channel selected, right? The lower channel selected there. All right. So I'll just keep it as that. You know, if you think so if you're trading an instrument and a chart type that might develop long wicks, right? Obviously, a range chart, your wicks can only be, 29 ticks long. So, but if you're, trading a tick or a minute chart, whatever, right? You could have long wicks. And so if you think that maybe the lower channel is not far enough away, then what you could do is either you could just add, or subtract another 100 ticks from that, call it good, right? Or do something a little more sophisticated, such as we do have an ATR here, right? So we do have a -1 added to the Donchian channel, right? So what this is doing is it's setting the stop loss at the lower channel of the Donchian, right? Lower channel. And then it is subtracting another 1 ATR of offset distance, right? So that would definitely be way out of the way of any potential wick coming down to hit that stop loss, right? So I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, for now. But I did notice that ATR was there. Let me just double check the other stop loss here. And all right, good. No ATR set. Okay. And I was going to double check this, make sure. Yeah, no ATR set. Okay, good. All right. Excellent. All right. Again, so just to explain the setup here. So in order to accomplish identifying when price closes below an indicator line, you have to have a physical order that we can create a trailing roll on. So either you could create the trailing roll that identifies when price closes, on the other side of the midline. You could create that trailing roll in either a stop loss, or as I started to do, you can create that trailing roll in a profit target, right? So since this is a runner, I went with a stop loss. So, all right, so all we've done is we just set up the initial location of that stop loss, just set it hopefully far enough out of the way so that some wick doesn't hit it before the bar closes and we actually get that close below the midline there, right? So let's go to trailing actions. And so now this is where we actually set up that condition here. So let's add a trailing roll here. And we're going to go into the trigger. And once again, we're going to compare price to an indicator. So we're going to check to see if the closing price there is above or below the midline of that Donchian channel. So we're going to go to the indicator there, plug in the Donchian channel, and this is the Donchian number 2, which uses a 6 period, so we'll adjust the period. But this time we're comparing the close to the midline. So there we go, the mean, right? The mean line is the midline, so that's already selected, so we're good to go there. All right. Now, the modes here, right? So if it's a long trade, we're looking for a close below the midline. So in that case, input A, the closing price, is going to be below input B. So for a long trade here, we're looking for A is equal or below B, right? So the close is equal or below the Donchian midline, which is B, right? And so for a short trade, we want the opposite condition. So select that. There we go. So this actually says a close below, so that would not be equal. All right, so actually we would say A below B, take out the equal, and then A above B. There we go. All right. So that is the condition we're looking for. Now here's the problem I started to kind of get into at the beginning of this question here, which is normally, right, with all brokers that I know of, you can just move your stop loss into the market, right? So you can just move your stop loss to wherever the last price is, right? And you get filled. So, but for some reason, NinjaTrader's decided that's not allowed to be done anymore. And so if you run this on a sim account, NinjaTrader's going to throw up error messages saying you can't do that. But if it's a live account, you know, I don't know who this broker is that NinjaTrader is referring to, but anyways, just make them, just so you know, if you try to move a stop loss on the wrong side of the market and you're using a sim account, NinjaTrader does not allow that anymore with NinjaTrader 8. So this is going to throw up error messages here, right? Which is kind of the reason why I started to do it with a profit target. So you can move a profit target on the wrong side of the market and you just instantly get filled there. Yeah. So if you are wanting to run this on a sim account and you don't want to have to deal with NinjaTrader throwing up that error message, then you would need to take this trailing roll and actually move it into the profit target, move it into a profit target. And then to close out this order, right, to close out this contract, you would just move your profit target to the last price, right, and then it'll get filled. Or better yet, what I used to do back with NinjaTrader 7 in these workshops is I would move the stop loss to the last price, and then I would move it a couple of ticks above the last price, just in case. Because again, right, today's markets are moving so fast, you could literally get right, the markets can jump 3 ticks in a heartbeat there. So I would move it, you know, a couple of ticks above the last price, you know, for, again, this is for a long trade, move that stop loss above the market. And if it's a short trade, move that stop loss right below the market. And your stop loss instantly gets filled there. So, yeah. So the key to this question here, right? The key to this is setting up the trigger here, right? Price versus indicator. So we're comparing the closing price to some indicator, and if the close is on one side or the other, right, that triggers this trailing roll and then moves your stop loss or moves your profit target to the other side of the market so that it gets filled. So, all right, yeah, so that's the key there to this. So now, the third one, it's the same thing, right? Except we're just using a different indicator plot line, right? And we're doing 1 bar go. All right, so I can click OK there. And so let's copy, I'm going to copy B. So I already have, let's see here. Yeah, so I already have this stop loss, although we're now using the lower Donchian channel here, right? Not just the midline, but the lower channel, right? So that means I need to go to the options, go into the initial placement, right? And I need to move this stop loss out of the way. There. So let's go into the Donchian channel. And let's see here. Actually, yeah, it is on the lower line. But let's make it, say, 3 ATRs away. So I'll push this third stop loss, I'll push it a little further away there, you know, a 3 ATR distance away. There we go. So that should keep that stop loss out of the way there. All right. Now, the trailing roll here, right? So again, we just need to go into the trigger, and for the Donchian channel here, we're still using the number 2 here, which is a 6 period, but this time, instead of using the mean, we're comparing against the lower line here and the upper line for a short trade. So we just need to switch the plots that we're comparing the closing price to. Right, like so. And we want it 1 bar go, right? The previous bar. So there we go. So we just use the displacement there. And so effectively that's what NinjaTrader's displacement does, is it says, okay, you know, look back 1 bar, essentially. And there we had, that's all we had to do to adjust the Donchian channel there, right? For using the lower channel versus the midline or the mean there, right? Yeah, and so our modes are still the same, right? We're checking to see if A, the closing price, is below B, which now is the lower channel. So, all right, and then move that stop loss to the other side of the market, which fills it instantly as a market, right? So there. One thing to note here on the actions is we do have this option here. So if you, at the very top under type, we do have the option to flatten, but this flattens the position, not this contract. All right, so this flattens the entire position, not the individual contract. So yeah, so because we're using different conditions to close out each contract, we can't use the flattened position there. So, well, actually, I guess, you know what? By the time we get to the third stop loss, everything else is closed out, right? So I guess for the last order set, we actually can use just, yeah, we can use flatten the position there for that last order there, that last, yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, let me see if there's any follow-up questions on this. And so this was from Doug. And yeah, it looks like Doug has a couple of comments or questions in here. Let's see. All right. Yeah, so looks like everything is okay. All right. Good. Well, then actually I don't see any follow-up questions here. Yeah. Okay. So I think that wraps it up. Yeah, again, just I want to emphasize again that NinjaTrader 8 does not allow you to move your stop loss to the wrong side of the market anymore. Because there's some weird broker out there. So again, if you're running this on a sim account, this is not going to work. And actually just maybe to prove the point here, let's click OK. And let's do a reload. And yeah, we'll check this out. Turn on the auto trading. There we go. And let's see here. Am I using the right signals? Yep. Okay, using the right ones. There. Yeah. All right. So I'll let this run in the background. So as I was saying here, right? When you're using a NinjaTrader sim account, NinjaTrader NinjaTrader 8 no longer allows this action. It worked fine with all the prior versions of NinjaTrader, but no more. So if you want, the point I'm getting to is if you want to test this, on a live market here, just let it run for a day or two. You do have to take this trailing rule here. You actually need to switch this from a stop loss to a profit target, right? Take this trailing rule and move it into a profit target here, right? And so because this is a runner, right, you're gonna have to just put that profit target, and there we go. Now, stop price can't be changed below the market. There you go. That's exactly what NinjaTrader throws up on you. But if you're trading live, brokers don't care. Your stops get filled instantly. So, let's see here. Well, actually, I guess technically it depends if it's a stop market or a stop limit. So, obviously, stop limits won't get filled. But anyways, that's the error we're talking about. Yeah. So if you're going to move move these conditions here into the profit target, so everything does work out for testing on a sim account, then the profit target here, obviously you just have to push your profit target way out there to something ridiculous so it never gets hit. So something like that. And then for the trailing rules, again, you can set up the exact same trigger condition. And again, just move your profit target to the opposite side of the market and your profit target gets filled. So, yeah. All right. Okay. There you go. I think I made that as clear as I could possibly be. So, yeah. All right. So that takes care of that question there. Let's see. All right, so we are moving on to Farrell's questions here. All right, so I took care of question number one, which is every machine's different and every operating, every Windows environment, is different in, as far as what's running in the background and might be using up your CPU or not. So the only way to know is test, test, test. So, and actually every generation of CPU is different. So, yeah, I actually replaced my computer, wow, 4 years ago now. Yeah, I finally updated my computer 4 years ago. So I had a computer that lasted me 10 years because I built a really nice high-end computer. But that CPU was getting a little slow. Um, so I upgraded from a fourth generation i7 to a 11th generation. So I went from number 4 to number 11 generation of an i7 Intel, and the CPU speeds were essentially the same. And the speed difference between that older generation i7 and the newer one was huge. So again, the point is every generation of CPU is internally the CPUs are optimized, so they execute things a little faster and faster. So again, there's no way to know how many Blackbirds you can open. Yeah. Anyways, all right. I beat that question to death there. So all right, let me move on to Farrell's question number 2. All right. So Farrell, question number 2 is way too vague. I've never seen Blackbird fail to execute a stop loss or profit target unless you put incorrect values in there, right? So like what I did earlier, what was it? The first question when I set up my stop loss, let's go to the options, right? In the first question, I forgot to put the negative symbol in for my stop loss, so obviously it failed. That's the only time I've ever seen Blackbird uh, not submit. So again, I'm not sure. So if you're literally by not execute, I'm assuming you mean being submitted to the market. Yeah, I've never seen that happen. Now, if you literally mean execute, so if your stop losses are failing to get filled, right, executed or filled, right, or your profit targets to get filled, that's a NinjaTrader bug. You have to talk to them. Blackbird has no control over your orders getting filled. That's all NinjaTrader and your broker. All right. So yeah, let me kind of point you to what a strategy, aka Blackbird, what a strategy actually does and what it does not do here. Let's see here. So let's pull up the Blackbird documentation here. There we go. All right. So actually to get here, sorry, let me show you how to get here. So go to support, documentation, and then click on Blackbird. There you go. So that'll pull up this side menu as well here. All right, so here, if we scroll down, we do have a table of contents. And actually, no, let's just keep going here. Here we go. What does the strategy actually do? Yeah, so if you click on this little image, this illustrates, briefly explains what a strategy does and does not do versus what is NinjaTrader responsible for. So you gotta remember, NinjaTrader actually does all the overhead work, which is a lot. Yeah, so Farrell, I recommend that you definitely take a look at this and read this here. So that way you can distinguish between what a strategy can actually do and is responsible for versus what is the platform responsible for. Right? There. Right. So again, yeah, what does the strategy actually do? So right, so on the introduction page here, all you gotta do is scroll down just a little bit. There we go. Right there. There. So and let's see here. So there's a second part to this question. All right. Yeah, so your stops and your profit targets fail to trigger. Um, yeah, again, triggers. Do you mean being submitted to the market? Are we talking about a stop loss triggering? You know, that stop loss trailing. So the stop loss trailing is not trailing. So technically, you know, for Blackbird, if we go to the trailing actions, right, we use the word trigger as a condition, right? A triggering condition that has to happen before your stop loss actually moves, or your profit target moves, right? Either or. Um, yeah. So, all right. So, third part here is using the close button there. Yeah. So, if the close button is not working, my guess is either NinjaTrader is just too bogged down, trying to process too much data coming in. You know, again, how many charts do you have open? How many indicators do you have running? You know, is NinjaTrader busy just trying to process all that incoming market data? You know, how many instruments? Are you running on charts and other things as well, right? It's not just charts, but you got to remember NinjaTrader has all this other stuff, right? It has Market Analyzer, right? Market Analyzer requires a lot of processing. Strategy Analyzer, no, not Strategy Analyzer. Time and Sales, I think that's pretty minor. And where's the DOM? The Super DOM. That is pretty minor unless you have indicators loaded into it. You know, the big culprit here is lots of charts and some indicators, right? There are some indicators like the order flow indicators, which are very much heavier in processing time than something like a Donchian channel or a moving average or a stochastics or a MACD, right? All those old classic indicators are very light on processing time, very lightweight as the terminology they use, right? But any indicator that analyzes order flow volume, those are very heavyweight. So again, yeah, the only thing I could know, yeah, guess is probably your NinjaTrader is just bogged down trying to do stuff, and that's why the close button doesn't work there. One thing you can do is keep an eye on the log tab here. So watch this. If I hit the close button, and can't do that when Blackbird's open, right? So let's cancel that and click OK there. There we go. Now I can use the close button. All right, click close, and you'll notice that Blackbird actually, let's see, yeah, it's closing all the positions here. Close, close, close. There we go, right here. So category is NinjaScript and Blackbird. Get back here. There we go. Blackbird will tell you that, hey, it acknowledged that the close button was clicked. All right, so check to see. So if you see that message, then that means Blackbird was at least able to acknowledge Blackbird was running and functioning. So Blackbird was not bogged down, and it acknowledged, okay, yeah, the close button was clicked. And then after that, it's up to NinjaTrader to actually go in and execute closing out the orders. Right? So this here tells you that Blackbird submitted the close function to NinjaTrader, and then it's up to NinjaTrader to go and close out all those orders, which is what everything above it is NinjaTrader processing the closing of all those orders there. Right? Yeah. So there. And of course, yeah, there's those sim account trying to close out that stop loss, or trying to close out that stop loss, which Ninja doesn't like anymore. So, all right, here. Yeah. All right. So that's question number 2. Let's see. Let's take a look at question number 3. All right, question number 3 is a two-parter here. So let me address this second part here. So, all right, so, and, yeah, all right. So the second part of the question is, all right, he's submitting multiple order sets here. It sounds like, yeah, A, B, and C, kind of like what I have here. And he's got multiple contracts, probably something like this. And so order set A doesn't always execute all the contracts. Yeah. So I've never seen Blackbird not submit all the contracts. I mean, it's physically impossible, according to the code, for Blackbird to not submit 5 contracts to NinjaTrader there. So I'm assuming when you say when the trade goes live, it only executes. I'm assuming you mean, fills 1 or 2 contracts. So yeah, with that situation, you just got to contact your broker. I mean, there's nothing Blackbird can do, right? If our Blackbird software could force things to happen in the market, we'd all be millionaires. But that's not the case. Yeah, so you just need to talk to your broker and find out why isn't your broker filling all 5 of your contracts there. There's nothing we can do there. Let's see. Yeah, so what could cause this issue? Again, that's a broker question. That's outside the scope of shark indicators. Yeah, we're not brokers. So yeah, those kind of things, you really have to talk to your broker there about that. So now, if it's a sim account, then the sim account belongs to NinjaTrader. So that would be, where's strategies? There we go. Yeah, so if you're running Blackbird on a SIM account, the SIM account, right, is an internal NinjaTrader account. So you need to ask NinjaTrader what's going on there. And NinjaTrader could help, could help figure out why the platform is not executing all of your contracts there. Yeah. Yeah, so as far as what could cause not filling all 5 contracts, that's only something NinjaTrader could answer if you're using the SIM account, right? If it's a live account, that's something only your broker could answer. And let's see here. So, I guess I might as well say this. I mean, an obvious answer is use market orders, right? Market orders always get filled. So they're guaranteed to get filled all the time. And if all 5 contracts are market orders and are not getting filled, then again, it falls back to either your broker for a live account or NinjaTrader for the SIM accounts. So I've never seen that happen. I've always seen market orders get filled. So, yeah. All right, let's see here. Let's go back to part 1 of question number 3. Yeah, so the second and third order sets sometimes do not execute. So again, are they not being submitted to the markets, or are they just not getting filled? Yeah, so again, there's details. There's too much vagueness here and too much variety here. So, for example, even with the market order, you can use this place option here, right? Just throw something simple in there, right? So let's just say, I don't know, for some reason you want to wait 5 bars before submitting order set C, right? So so this could be the cause, this secondary condition is not occurring, yeah. So, I can't really answer that first part. There's just too much variability there. So best thing to do there. So bottom line there, Farrell, with all your, with question number 2 and question number 3, there is a lot of missing detailed information. Every situation is different. So what you need to do is either you could email your email your Blackbird file in, but when you email your Blackbird file in, also email any Bloodhound file that's being used by Blackbird. All right. It doesn't sound like, for question 2 and question 3, it doesn't sound like any of this is related to Bloodhound. So if you're going to email your Blackbird file in, just delete the signals, please. Delete the signals and then do a save as, right? And save this, this different version of Blackbird, save it as something else and email that in, right? Because so many times people will email their Blackbird file in and it still has Bloodhound attached, and it just causes problems. It makes it difficult for us to open it up. All right. So, so anyways, you can email your Blackbird file in, so that way Mike can take a look at it and he might be able to spot something obvious with your entry orders as to why they're not, quote, getting executed, whatever that means, you know, being submitted or being filled, not sure which it is. Yeah. Yeah. So that would be my suggestion there for the next step there, is email your Blackbird file in without your Bloodhound, with your all your signals removed, and then save that Blackbird file out as a separate file for us and email that in. That way Mike can take a quick look and see if there's anything obvious that might be causing these submission or order filling problems though. Yeah. So, and also always remember, NinjaTrader provides all of this detailed information here, right? And this is how NinjaTrader figures out what's going wrong, and it's the same thing for us. Every NinjaTrader vendor that sells a strategy, right? We all use these log files here to figure out what's going on. Blackbird tells you exactly everything that's going on. Every single step along the way is documented there. So, right. Yeah. Also, here's a big tip. So for all you regulars out there, if you're troubleshooting, if you want to, here's a great tool to help you troubleshoot your strategies using these log files here. So let's see, what is it? Google has let's see here. There we go. Notebook LM. Yeah, so if you have a Gmail account, I'm not sure if you have access to this without Gmail, but actually I guess you do. Yeah, there's just a regular site here. But yeah, use Google's Notebook LM. And what you can do is you can upload your log and trace files from NinjaTrader here, and then ask it a question. It's basically an AI that uses those log and trace files. And so you could upload a log file and ask Google, can you summarize what's in this file? And then, yeah, it'll go through it, and it'll actually literally go through it and say, oh, so and so executed. Here's, and executed a bunch of different times. So yeah, this is a major time-consuming or major time-saving AI tool here. Yeah, and I mean, you can even specifically ask it, hey, at roughly, 9:32, there was an error with a stop loss. Can you identify what that error was? And it literally will go to that order at that time and tell you, summarize what the issue was. So, yeah. So, mark this down, Notebook LM. It's a great personalized AI. Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what it is. So you upload your log and trace files to it, and then you can query it on individual log and trace files there. So, all right, that is probably my big tip of the day. And let's see here. All right, so that's basically as far as I can go with Farrell's questions there, since they're just a little too generic. let's see here. All right, it looks like Doug might have a follow-up on Farrell's question. Oh, okay. Yeah. So as far as how many Blackbirds can you run on the Quant VPS servers, again, we don't know what your environment's like. You know, the more charts and loaded up workspaces, we don't know. And so because of that, we don't do testing. Nobody does testing because it's pointless. We could, somebody, any vendor could go out there and do their own testing, and then somebody comes back and says, that's wrong. Well, and it's because they have a bunch of junk running in the background, right? So it's a pointless mute. It's mute and pointless to try and also CPUs are changing all the time. So for example, let me give you a great example that I just thought of here. Oh, before I get there, yeah, let me remind you guys. So there was an update here. There was an update, and it addresses the trade flags display issue here. So when you're moving a trade flag, you're dragging a trade flag to a new price, right? The flags stop showing up anyway. So that got fixed there. So with this update. So yeah. All right. Oh. So yeah. So this other point here I wanted to get to. No, it's not there. All right, let's go to support, documentation, go to the main page. There we go. Under other pages, computer selection guide. There you go. So I think this is probably, man, 5, 7 years old, and it's already slightly outdated here. Yeah, some of the technicals here are slightly outdated, but this really is written to be generic. It's not specific as to what hardware, does what. It's just kind of generic in trying to help understand, what has a high CPU impact, what's low CPU impact, right? Yeah, there's another one, desktop versus laptop CPUs. So yeah, laptop CPUs are much slower in processing, not physically, not physically in gigahertz. The gigahertz is the same, but their processing speed, what is it? Their MITs, is it, or flops? Yeah, I'm not sure what the exact term is, but the number of flops I think is the right one. Right, laptop CPUs have a much lower flop processing number than a desktop. So, again, there's so much variability, it's impossible to answer. You know, what, how many charts can you have open? How many Blackbirds? How many Bloodhounds can you run? Yada, yada, yada. So it's impossible to know. But anyways, we do have that. And let's see. As far as the amount of RAM, actually, yeah, this is already outdated. So yeah, NinjaTrader now typically will use more than 4 gigabytes. I think, yeah, NinjaTrader will get up to 8 gigabytes now pretty easily. So even this information's already outdated. Yeah, like the video cards. The video cards here are outdated. Although you still can find these old cards. They're pretty cheap there. Yeah, you can still find these old cards, and they're still there. Yeah, they're still fine for NinjaTrader. So, Um, yeah, but at some point, these old cards, you just won't be able to find them anymore, right? So, anyways, so there you go. So when you have plenty of extra spare time, yeah, this is a good read through there. So it'll help you understand what helps NinjaTrader with the different um, with the different uh, what yeah, what computer components help NinjaTrader with doing different processing. So yeah, so um, yeah, one thing to note there, Doug, is I think you'd have to ask sales this, but I don't think we recommend the the standard VPSs anymore. Let's see here if it's on here. Hmm, I don't see any mention of it, but um, I did hear from um, sales, the sales department that the first VPSs that Quant told us about, um, we later found out that actually Quant has a faster CPUs here. Oh, yeah. So originally they were using slower CPUs, like I think 1.6 or 1.8 gigahertz. And then we found out they have something like 2.4 gigahertz. And those slower ones, they were really just too slow for NinjaTrader. Um, just generally speaking, they were too slow for NinjaTrader. Yeah. So I think all of these signups now are using, I think what Quant calls the plus VPSs. I don't see any mention here of that. Um, so if you signed up with Quant a while ago, I don't know, a year ago, um, then you might want to check with Quant whether you have, I don't know what they call it, the regular VPS or the plus VPS. Yeah. So the regular VPS is, like I said, the gigahertz speed uh, was really too slow for NinjaTrader to be effective in today's markets. So, we assume that Quant was actually providing, that Quant advertises, for NinjaTrader. Let's see, where is Quant? Where's Quant's name? Oh, I guess, oh, there we go. Yeah, they actually specifically say, hey, we have VPSs specifically for NinjaTrader, um, but yeah, but some of their VPSs were too slow. Um, and they have been actually, yeah, now that I think about this, I think they've been slowly upgrading their VPSs to faster processors, which really is what's needed for NinjaTrader. And yeah, and if you're going to be doing back testing and running strategies and stuff like that. So, yeah. Yeah. So again, if you are on one of these VPSs, you can check with sales there, and they can find out if you're on the plus version of the VPS. So yeah, so you can either email sales or email support there and find out which processor you have, if it's the regular one or the plus one. I think that's what, again, I'm not sure, but I think that's what Quant VPS is advertising them. That's the name they use, is the plus VPS, and they're running at a faster gigahertz. So, yeah. Let's see here. All right. Looks like there's some other questions in the Q&A window. Yeah, let's see here. So Doug is asking, is there a performance difference between Windows 10 and Windows 11? I think so, but that also could be an issue with just my machine. So I only have one machine on Windows 11 right now. So I wanted to just give it a good long try. But that one machine, I've installed so much junk that modifies Windows, replaces drivers, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's unfair for this one exam for this one machine, for me to make an evaluation based on this one machine here. And it is the only machine that I have on Windows 11. So yeah, I did notice a performance hit on Windows 11 with NinjaTrader. And actually I had so many problems, I actually had to do a complete reset of Windows 11 and wiped all my data, which really kind of sucks, right? And then having to reinstall all the software. But when I did that, the performance of NinjaTrader and other things was a lot better. Not as good as I remember from Windows 10, because who knows, there still could be, supposedly when you do that Windows reset, it's supposed to wipe everything out. But you know, I'm not a Windows expert, so who knows what old stuff might have been left behind when Windows did a reset. So I think my what my example is just, yeah, probably skewed. So probably your best bet there is, you know, Doug, go ask, you know, the wisdom of the crowd. So go to NinjaTrader's forum there. Yeah, you know, jump on Ninja's forum. So it's no longer monitored by NinjaTrader support. It's right. It's just other NinjaTrader users, and I'm sure somebody has already asked that question on NinjaTrader support forum. So you can probably find a lot of people, you know, answering that question there for you, and kind of see what the consensus is. So same thing with NexusFi. Yep, I could almost guarantee that there's probably a bunch of people who have already asked that question on NexusFi. So you could search NexusFi as well. And yeah, just kind of see what the aggregated average experience is on going from Windows 10 to Windows 11 there for NinjaTrader. So, and all right, looks like we got one more question here. Oh, okay, yeah, so comment. All right, so Doug is saying you want to select. So going back to, where is it? There we go, going back to the BPS. So you want to select BPS XXX. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's go here. Oh, there we go. So they're calling it the performance, not the plus. All right. Oh, yeah, there you go. So light plus, pro plus, ultra plus. Yeah. So standard, yeah, regular, no plus at the end. There you go. So the performance, yeah, it's not telling you the gigahertz change, but it is, from what I remember, yeah, these are newer or brand new servers, whereas these are older CPUs. So again, that kind of goes back to when I was answering Farrell's question that my fourth generation i7 was almost running, like there's only a 500 megahertz difference between my older i7 and my newer i7, right? So that's not much of a speed difference, but the performance difference was a lot faster on the newer CPU. So yeah, so I think my guess is that's what this is. The standard are the older CPU. Well, yeah, so there you go. They're the older EPYC CPUs, and the performance are the newer Ryzen. Yeah, so the newer CPUs are just going to be more optimized, just like a newer Intel i7 or i9. So, and I think the gigahertz is faster too, I think. So again, don't quote me on this. I'm not the sales guy. This is just stuff I kind of remember hearing talked about. So, yeah. All right. Anyways, get that out of there. Okay. Yeah. So remember, guys, Notebook LM. I still haven't figured out what LM stands for. But then again, I don't really care. I know it works, and that's what matters. Yeah, maybe Notebook LM. I don't know, language model? Got me. So yeah, remember that, guys. Very helpful to upload your NinjaTrader log and trace files, and then you can ask it questions, such as why, why didn't something execute? So now, of course, going back to Farrell's question, if you're trying to figure out why some contracts didn't get filled, though that information's not in your log file, So yeah, if it didn't fill, then well, what will be in your log file is Notebook LM can tell you that yes, 5 contracts were submitted, 1 contract filled, 1.5 seconds later, another 2 contracts filled 2.1 seconds later, And then there were two other contracts that did not fill. So Notebook LM is good at kind of breaking that down for you. If you ask a specific question about, hey, can you summarize, when a order set A submitted 5 contracts, but not all of them filled, can you summarize that for me? Yeah, it'll go in there and it'll find that data in your log file here and break it down for you. So great tool. Uh, Plans. Uh-oh. Are they charging for this? Oh, there we go. Okay, personal use. Yeah, great. Well, all right, guys. Well, I think that does it for all the questions so far. All right, well, let me kind of clean up the Q&A window here. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, we're at the 2 hour mark. All right. And yeah, there's still a good number of people in the room. All right, so guys, I'll start like a 10-minute timer here to see if there's any other questions that there might be in the room. All right, so another 10 minutes or so. So I'll hang around till about 15 minutes after the hour. All right. So if I don't see any more questions, any more Blackbird questions by the time we get to 15 minutes out after the hour, then we'll wrap it up. All right. So, but as long as you guys have questions, we'll keep the workshop open to get all those questions answered. And all right, yeah. So also, I'm just gonna mute my microphone while I'm waiting for the next question to come in here. All right. So, and let's see here. So Nab has his hand raised. So just to make sure, Nab, I don't recognize your name, so I'm not sure if you're new or not. But just to make sure, in these workshops, we use the Q&A window. So the chat window is disabled. So use the Q&A window if you have a question. All right, gentlemen, there's about 3 more minutes left until we get to the 15 after the hour. All right, about 3 more minutes left there. Yeah, you're welcome, Doug. Absolutely. So this is doing these workshops actually a lot of fun. So yeah, it's kind of fun chatting with you guys and helping you get helping you get everything implemented into Bloodhound and or Blackbird. So yeah, so you're very welcome. All right, another minute left, guys, to get those Blackbird questions in here. All right, guys. Actually, it's 2 minutes past. All right. So yeah, with that, I haven't seen any Blackbird questions in quite some time. So I think we are done for the day. So let's see here. Yeah, just a reminder. If you have questions for these workshops, you can always email them in, just like the 2 questions I answered today, right? This question was emailed in, so, and the other one, so, all right. It's always handy to be able to attach a chart, that's marked up with arrows and text to kind of help explain what you're trying to do there, right? And you can email, a screenshot of that chart in with your question there. So, and remember, the sooner you email those questions in, the better. So that way I have ample time to review it and make sure I have, all the information I need to get it answered. So, because quite often, most of the time, I do need to email people back with missing or more detailed information. So, yeah. All right. So let's see here. Oh, also, yeah, if anybody wants to watch the recording as soon as possible, again, just email support and ask for the recording to be uploaded to the Raw channel. So, yeah, but I think you guys know all that. So, all right, that should do it, gentlemen. All right, so have a good rest of your Friday and a good weekend. Right, we're starting to have longer days. You could do things after work. More daylight after work is always nice. So I'm enjoying it. All right, guys, have a good weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.